Hey kids, it's Mr. Fly here, hope you're well. Welcome back to the channel and welcome to another bike review. And today I'm a little bit late to the party on this particular bike. As you will have seen from the thumbnail, I'm riding the Suzuki GSX8S, bit of a mouthful, but a bike that's received a lot of amazing press, amazing reviews, and a bike in a very busy segment of the market, the sort of middleweight street fighter type section, if there's such a section. But there's bikes in there like the Honda Hornet, Triumph Trident and so on, so lots of great competition. Anyway, stick around and stay tuned. I'll tell you what I think of it on this first ride review. So the GSX8S then from Suzuki. The thing that's interesting to me about this bike is, for the first time for a long time, this bike has a brand new engine in it. It's got a parallel twin in it, something like 776cc, something like that. We'll go through the spec in a minute. I may be wrong about the exact numbers there, but as I say, first time it's Suzuki have come up with a new engine for a long time, so quite exciting. And the first off, the thing you notice about this bike when you ride it is it's got absolutely loads of low down torque, which is quite different to the Honda Hornet, which I rode quite recently. I love the Hornet, a really nice, agile, fun bike. And this bike, very much a direct competitor to that. This bike is £1,000 more, or thereabouts. So is it £1,000 better? Well, we shall see. I noticed recently this bike won MCN's Naked Bike of the Year, so they obviously rate it. And one of the things I do notice that's different between this and the Hornet immediately is this feels, to me, a much more serious bike, a much more sort of big boys bike. I'm not saying the Hornet isn't a serious bike by any means, but the Hornet, when you jump on, feels light and agile and quite small and compact compared to this, which feels like a big bike, which indeed it is. So let's go through all the usual things that I do on my first ride review. So first up, comfort. Riding position on this is lovely. My legs are in a relatively sporty position, sort of tucked up a little bit, but not uncomfortable. I'm sat fairly upright, a little bit of weight on the wrists. Nothing too terrible though, nothing sort of sports bikey. It's not going to be a bike that puts pain in your wrists because of that, but it's just enough to get your weight over the front wheel to help out with the handling. So the riding position is very nice indeed. Handlebars nice and wide. Seat feels pretty hard to me. It's comfy, it sort of cups your buttocks nicely, but it does feel quite hard. So I don't know what it would be like on a long ride. You might suffer from a bit of numb bum, but at the moment it feels absolutely fine. And you may notice that I'm riding not in my familiar surroundings, but this is the environs of Ruislip in northwest London. The reason why I've got this bike is I've just dropped my Goldwing into HGB Motorcycles for its service, and round the corner is the Suzuki dealer, Daytona Motorcycles. HGB actually own Daytona, I think. So those are the guys that have lent me this bike while mine's in for a service. So thank you very much indeed to those guys for lending me the bike. And quite chuffed, because this was one of the bikes that I very much wanted to ride this year, and I did have a loan lined up from Suzuki UK. I was going to have one for a couple of weeks. Unfortunately, I was out of the country, and then the ATC shenanigans struck, and I got stranded abroad at the time when I was supposed to have the GSX8S in for a longer term ride. So absolutely thrilled that Daytona have stepped into the breach and been able to lend me this at short notice. So that's great news as far as I'm concerned. Anyway, before we get more into what the bike's like to ride, let's take a look over her. Okay, the Suzuki GSX8S then, in all her glory. Let's have a little look around at the bike. Now, I have to say, when I first saw this bike, I didn't think this was a looker. The thing that put me off was this front headlight, I instantly thought that's not a bike for me. But when you see this in the flesh, I have to say it's actually a very nice looking machine. From the side it looks great, and everything back from that headlight I think looks really muscular. I particularly like the shape of the fuel tank on here. They've done a lovely job. Let me just check and see. Yep, that's actually metal as well, not plastic. Actually, yeah, if you've only seen pictures of the bike, do have a look at one in the flesh. It does look good. I do think these blue wheels really help. It comes in, I think, 3 colours. You can get a black one, this blue one, or there's a white one that has a blue frame with the blue wheels, and that looks really, really nice. Okay, coming a bit closer up, There's that brand new engine. We'll talk about the spec a bit later. Little dinky exhaust pipe there underneath, all the gubbins underneath the necessary Euro 6 stuff, but the little exhaust looks quite good. This one's got a little bit, actually I was going to say corrosion, but it's just dirt on there, so that will just clean up. But I like the detail on the swing arm there, that looks good, and those blue wheels really do it for me. I'm an absolute sucker for some bling like that. Coming around this side, what else to point out? Could definitely do with the tail tidy, and maybe a slightly smaller number plate perhaps. But yeah, overall I'm surprised by how much I like the bike, and in fact I can even forgive it those headlights. When you look at it in the flesh, it's not too bad at all. Alright, that's what she looks like. Alright, welcome back aboard the GSX8S then. The good news about having borrowed this from Daytona Motorcycles in Ruislip is it does mean I get to ride the bike in a few different conditions. First of all, in this sort of urban environment, riding along here slowly at 30 miles an hour means I can get to try the fueling, which seems alright actually. I wouldn't describe it as jerky or anything like that. If you're gonna, you know, buy one bike for all your needs, if you're gonna commute, have the bike for fun and everything else, then absolutely you can do it on the GSX8S. Because the fueling in this urban situation is really, really nice. No jerkiness on the throttle at all. Got to be a little bit careful through here, as it is a 30 limit, he says, slowing down again. Because this new engine from Suzuki has really got loads of torque. It's got a, you know, low down, it feels great. It just feels like it wants to go. And that, I guess, is again one of the things that makes it a little bit different from the Hornet. The Hornet, great engine in that too, but it's a bit more up top. Whereas this one is all about the low down grunt. I think for real world riding I actually prefer a bit of low down grunt. Hopefully we'll get out to some faster roads to try that out shortly. While we're just weaving our way through the busy northwest London traffic, let's just talk about the controls on the bike, which are all pleasantly simple actually. The stuff you're looking at here and using is really nice. I mean, on the right hand side, just the usual start stop hazard controls. On the left hand side, indicators and horn as usual, and then you've got this up and down button and mode button that does everything on this TFT. The TFT, I have to say, is lovely. It's one of the best ones I've seen from Suzuki. Nice and clear, everything on there you need, proper fuel gauge, gear position indicator, and then everything else that you need. So if you use these up and down buttons, you cycle through the usual stuff on here, trip meters, you know, miles per gallon, odo, all that kind of stuff. That's all there, that's all good. This bike I see has done 697 miles, so just about running. Glad to hear that. And then if you hit the mode button, you can change the various riding modes, the traction control and what Suzuki call SDMS. Can't remember what it stands for, but it's basically riding modes. So on the traction control, 1 seems a good setting for the road. I think you've got 1, 2 and 3, and then you've got driving modes A, B and C. A is the most aggressive. I've got this on B, which is kind of akin to a road setting if you like, but all very easy to use, and you don't really need a manual to work that out. So that's all good. The stuff you're touching and looking at is nice on the GSX8S. I was hoping I was going to get to stop on the roundabout there, but to show you that I can get my feet flat on the deck, but the traffic wasn't as bad as expected. But I can get my feet flat down on the deck on this bike, which is nice. I'm 5'8" with a 32-inch leg, which people tell me is quite long, but I have no problems as a medium-sized fella getting my feet on the deck on this bike. Right, let's try it for a little bit on the motorway, see what she feels like there. Quite nice big mirrors on here, a little bit of vibration on them, but not enough to make them unusable. Let's just pop out here. Yeah, wow, this engine has instant shove. It just wants to go. I keep using the clutch, but this bike comes as standard with a quick shifter, which is something that it has over and above the Hornet, because that's an optional extra on the Hornet. Let's head this way, in fact. So again, if you're looking at that price difference, if you're considering the two bikes alongside each other, then the quick shifter I think on the Honda is something like £300 extra, whereas it comes as standard on the GSX8S. So that explains a bit of the price difference. Right, let's come down the box with that quick shifter. yeah, nice and seems nice and positive. Nice note to the engine as well, nothing obnoxious. Yeah, wow, it's got a lot of shove when you're low down in the rev range. Very, very nice. Right, where am I going here? Straight on, I think. I used to work round this way, just towards Uxbridge Way now. It's been a long time since I've been down here. And also, this is now all in that new London low emissions zone, which has caused all sorts of controversy for, well, people that live in London, of course. If you've got older cars that aren't compliant, then that's a pain. But also motorcycles, older motorcycles aren't compliant, so you can no longer drive into London and that low emissions zone with a motorcycle that doesn't meet the requirements. I think it has to be Euro 4 or above, something like that. I might be wrong on that. Do check the details on the ULEZ website if it's important to you. But luckily, the GSX8S complies with all the latest Euro emissions, so no such problems with that. Where's this Fiat going? Oh, the quick shifter up the box, absolutely lovely. Let's not get carried away. Yeah, that works well. Naked bike, of course, so nothing in terms of wind protection, but today it's a particularly warm day and it absolutely suits me down to the ground. But the good news is there's no wind buffet coming off of this. The way that they've designed the bike is it's not turbulent air hitting you, so that's all good. Alright, just while I wend my way looking for a bit more countryside and some country roads to try the bike out on, let's quickly whiz through the spec, shall we? Alright, here's that all-new 776cc parallel twin. As I say, the first Suzuki engine for absolutely yonks. Same engine as they've put in the, I think it's the V-Strom 800DE, although I think it might have a different tune on that bike. Puts out 81.7 brake horsepower and 78 newton meters of torque at 6,800 RPM. So quite a torquey unit, that one. Brakes on the front provided by these twin 310mm discs, and it's got 4-pot Nissin calipers. On the back we've got a single pot Nissin caliper, and that sits on a 240mm disc. Suspension wise, we've got these KYB upside down forks on the front. They've got 130mm of travel, and suspension on the back, just a bog standard coil spring tucked in there. Hopefully you can see that. Seat height on the bike is 810mm, but it's quite narrow waisted, so dead easy for me at least to get my feet down on the deck at 5'8". Suzuki quote a 202 kilograms curb mass for the bike, so yeah, sort of medium weight I'd say. Tank capacity on the GSX8S is 14 litres, and Suzuki quotes something like a 200-mile tank range. Electronics wise, you've got this really nice to use TFT. You've got the 3 riding modes there, A, B and C, and the variable traction control, but that's pretty much it. No connectivity or anything like that, so that's a good thing as far as I'm concerned. Not keyless either. Price wise, the GSX8S comes in at $7,999 plus on the road cost, so that's about £1,000 more than its closest competitor, the Hornet. Okay, welcome back aboard the GSX8S, where you find me on a bit of dual carriageway. So I've just wound her up to see what she's like at faster speeds, and yeah, I'm in that airflow, which is nice today, as I mentioned, but loads of go. If you've got to do runs on motorways and dual carriageways, then you're not going to run out of puff on this. No problem at all overtaking fast traffic. Or indeed, if you're going to go away and do a tour or something and you've got to cover some miles on motorways, then not going to be an issue in terms of speed and power on this bike, but you are going to be in that wind blast. Well, here we go. Here's a chance to show you my feet. Look, flat on the deck, little bit of a bend in my legs. No problem at all coming to a stop on this. Very easy bike to live with. Does feel nice and light. Feels a bit longer, I don't know if it is, but it feels longer than the Hornet, and I think that adds to its what I call more grown-up feel. Okay, here we go. A little bit of dual carriageway and national speed limit. Is the Jag you're going to pull over? Yes, he is. Lovely, handles really nicely. The suspension on here is, how would I describe it? If you've got very soft at one end of a line and very hard at the other, this sort of sits in the middle but towards the harder end, which makes for better handling actually. For my weight, I'm about 11 stone, The suspension feels set just right actually. I'd put it in my Goldilocks zone. Not too hard, not too soft. Yeah, this seat position does, when you've got a bit of wind flow, when you're going on these faster roads, does position you over the front wheel, which is quite nice actually, because it means you can sort of brace yourself against the wind nicely. And there's no, there's no weight on my wrist because the wind is holding my body weight up. So yeah, it's a comfortable ride, this. Alrighty, I think that's it for the faster riding. We can get to some slightly smaller roads now as we come into Chalfont. I was wondering actually if I do a right here, where that'll take me to. Oh, bumpy old roads here with some potholes and things. Let's come round this way, see where this takes us. Goodness knows. Don't know where this takes us, we'll find out. No through road, no use whatsoever. Let's forget that then. Chance to try the turning circle out though. And although I've cocked it up in terms of doing a feet up turn, very tight turning circle on here. So for moving this around in the garage and what have you, piece of cake. I think this would be a very easy bike to live with. Alright, let's go in the search of some more countrified roads to try out on. Alrighty, wind on 5 or 10 minutes and I found myself some more familiar roads. They're a little bit more twisty behind this rather nice looking Porsche actually. Number plate 52GD, you wonder who that might be. Nice looking vehicle. Anyway, anything behind me, I need to try the brakes out on the bike just to see how they work. There we go, let's give the front a go. Oh wow, they work really well, those brakes. Let me just give it another go, nothing behind. Yeah, a little bit of fork dive, nothing too bad, and they're not grabby or anything like that. I must try and remember I've got a quick shifter and stop using that clutch. So yeah, front brake really, really nice indeed, nice and predictable. Loads of power there, loads of stopping power, which is useful on a bike like this, which does encourage you to ride briskly on these twisties. The low down grunt on here is lovely. And with your weight just over the front of the bike a bit more than on the Hornet, it does feel a bit more sporty to me. Well, a lot more sporty in fact. I can see why MCN recently gave this their award for best naked bike of the year. I think based on this initial ride, I do prefer it over the Hornet, and that's quite a big accolade because I did like the Hornet very much. Let's just try the rear brake. Wow, ABS cut in there very quickly. Let me try that again. Yeah, it works pretty good actually for a rear. No problem with the brakes. Yeah, in particular I like the handling on this bike. Just the geometry of it, the way it just leans you forward a little bit. Makes for a sportier ride. This is an excellent fun machine, I have to say. The scourge of riding in the southeast captures me once again. Traffic. Be lovely to take one of these somewhere like Wales and try some of their twisty and traffic free roads. But although it sounds like it, I'm not really complaining because it's so nice to be out in lovely weather, which has been a rarity this year. This is an absolute pleasure to ride this today. Alrighty, let's try this on some more familiar roads. And look, 3 white vans to dice with. Excellent news. Okay, I've lost the white vans and I'm on much more familiar roads, so now I can just see how this bike feels in some familiar twisties. This particular road, really bumpy, full of potholes, so it's interesting to see how the suspension handles it. And I have to say, so far, absolutely fine. As I said, it's on the stiffer side, the suspension, and with your weight over the handlebars, it makes for some great handling. Let's go and hunt out my favourite little twisty section up here. Nice one, cyclist, 3 abreast. Good one. Right, here's my favourite little stretch of handling road. Short-lived but fun. Let's see how the GSX8S does here. You feel the front end go pretty light as you accelerate away. The torque is brilliant on here. Yeah, if you're a wheelie expert, which I'm not, I imagine this bike would be flipping excellent. Yeah, really, really nice. Alright, where were we? Back to normality. Alright, so to sum up then, on the Suzuki GSX8S, what are my closing thoughts? Well, as you've gathered, it's a really nice bike. It's actually surprised me because this was, as I mentioned earlier, a bike that when I first saw it, I thought, oh, that looks absolutely awful. That is not a bike for me. But when you ride a bike, it doesn't matter what it looks like, does it? And also, when you see this in the flesh, it's such a nice machine in terms of its build quality. And from those front lights back, it looks very muscular and very purposeful. And I love the rest of the bike. It's just those front lights that don't do it for me. But I don't think they would put me off getting the bike because a bit like when I saw these Ducati Street Fighter V4 for the first time, I didn't think I was going to like that bike either, but I loved it when I rode it. And this GSX8S is very much in that category. If you think you don't like the looks of it, don't let that put you off. Have a ride of it, have a look at it in the flesh, and then see what you think. Suzuki have done a really nice job on this. So yeah, I think for me the only downside is possibly looks that might be divisive and challenging. You've got to get around that. I can get around that personally with it. Other than that, there's nothing about the bike that I don't like. Earlier on in the review I mentioned there was a little bit of vibration in the mirrors when I was on the motorway, but it's not a vibey bike at all. They've done a good job on this new parallel twin, sorting out the vibes with that sort of twin balance shaft arrangement they've got in the engine. It's a nice smooth unit. It's a really nice engine on here. Yeah, there's nothing about it to not like. It's not overcomplicated with electronics. It's got the stuff you need and nothing more. Switch gear is easy to use. It feels like a quality bike. It's a quality build, and the price is nice. So yeah, if you're in the market for a middleweight naked, do check out the GSX8S. An absolute winner. So I must say a big thank you to Ricky and the guys up at Daytona Motorcycles in Ruislip for letting me ride the GSX8S this morning. And thank you to you, as always, for watching the review. If you've not been to my channel before, do hit that subscribe button. It'd be great to have you along next time. Right, that's it for now. Look forward to speaking to you again soon. Until then, this has been the Mr. Flyer. Cheerio.